All right, so you are being recorded now, so just be aware of that. And we got 3 more minutes by my clock. Let's hope more people join us. If not, it's just going to be the 5 of us. All right, we're going to wait probably less than a minute actually. At 3:48, we'll get started, and then if more folks show up, fantastic, and if not, it'll just be the 5 of us, and that will be okay. All right, ladies, welcome once again. I'm so glad that you're here. All of you were here for the first session, correct? On Tuesday? Yes? Okay, I thought so. I just wanted to make sure. Good, so then we can skip a lot of the preliminaries and we can jump right in. So obviously this is the 6-step process for learning vocabulary for English learners, part 2. You already know me, so I will not reintroduce myself. I will, however, very quickly go back over the objectives. We are going to learn how to use Marzano's 6-step process, and this time we'll be focusing on steps 4 through 6, although we will do a very brief revisiting of the first 3 to make sure we're all on the same page. And those are for the acquisition of new vocabulary by our English learners and really all of our students. And then we're going to look a little more in depth on how to design and implement those sentence stems with the recently acquired vocabulary, both for speaking and writing with that academic language, okay? And you can see the related t-test objectives up at the top of your screen. And if you do want to reference those, when I send you the PDF copy, you'll have all of those at your disposal. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a quick engage. We're going to do a quick write. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I want you to put into the chat. Basically, we're not going to do a KWL chart. We're going to do a KWL chat. Okay, so tell me one thing or multiple things you already knew. What is it that you're hoping to learn or find out more information today? And what was your biggest aha, or what did you learn? What stood out to you the most the last time that we were together? Okay, any questions before we begin? No? Okay, fantastic. So 2 minutes. Go ahead and type it into the chat. Go. Oops, sorry about that. Robin, hello. We are doing a 2-minute quick write KW. Oh, sorry about that. It's going crazy. A 2-minute quick write KWL, and you can see it on your screen. So just drop in the chat what you already knew, what you're hoping to learn today, and what's one thing you learned last time. Pretty sure you were with us last time as well. There we go. If you were not with us last time, please let me know that. Excellent. Thanks, Robin. Appreciate you. All right, Amy, very concise, very good. Thank you so much. And you are in luck. We will talk about how to effectively use sentence stems. We're not going to do it super in depth, obviously, for time, but there will be a future session specifically on designing those, and I'll talk to you about that at the end. But we are going to touch on it, and we are going to look at some parameters for that today. And I just got to use parameters in a sentence, so that's always fun. All right, we got a little less than 30 seconds. All right, Jeanette is in there. Okay, very nice. I love that you've learned a little bit about scaffolding with sentence stems. That's great. And we will also very specifically talk about how do we pace all the 6 steps. What is it okay to just use some of them? How can you space it out during the, whoa. I forgot that it had that hideous alarm at the end. Sorry about that. Okay. Mariana, all right. Okay. Fantastic. All right. If you didn't get to put one in there yet, or you're still working on, oh, Dana, sorry, I missed yours. Visuals. Okay, very nice. So yes, I love that you having students give their own description and or explanation. All right, fantastic. All right, well, it looks like you guys got a lot of excellent professional learning done last time. I would like to give myself all of the credit, but the reality is you're only as good as your learners. You know what I mean? Like I always used to tell the kids, Jesus Christ, Son of God, could teach you this lesson, but if you don't want to learn, you ain't gonna. Right? That's just, you're not going to tell me you may not believe that Jesus was, God's son, but I think everybody can agree he was a mighty fine teacher, right? And so if Jesus can't teach you, it's not on him, that's on you. All right, that's not the point of this the series today, so let's move on. All right. Okay, so last time we looked at the 6 steps, right? The first one is you as the teacher give a description with an accompanying visual to introduce the 3 to 7 terms that you have chosen that specifically go with the main idea or main point or main lesson objective, okay? Then, after you do that, to assess mastery and as a formative assessment, you allow students to give a description or explanation in their own words, either orally, in writing, or both, okay? And a turn and talk or a quick classroom engagement between students is a great way to do that. And then you allow the students to create their own visual, right? Or choose a visual from the internet, depending on their level, their maturity, and the time that you have. So today we're gonna hone in on steps 4, 5, and 6, okay? And so what you want is once the children have absorbed the meaning, given you a visual to demonstrate that they have at least some sort of deeper conceptual understanding, right? We wanna give them the opportunity to do something with those words, either to ID parts of the word, such as prefixes and suffixes, right? So that they can make connections that way, to identify synonyms or antonyms, as well as related words and any additional visuals. And the tool that I'm going to talk about today is one that you hopefully are familiar with, and that would be a Frere model, okay? Then step 5 is to allow for monitored, structured conversation with stems and accountability, and we'll talk about that. And then lastly, a lot of times we do this in early elementary, we let the kids play games with the words, but then in middle school and secondary, we get away from this. But not only is this a fun activity, but it is not a waste of time for students because it allows them to reinforce a deep understanding and to do things with the words that they might not otherwise do. And so I've never, because in the past when I did a session on this, I did it in person. So we're going to try it virtually because I think that it can be done and can be done successfully and therefore can be used for those of you in a virtual environment right now. Okay, so once again, I'm pretty sure you all already have the article, but just in case, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to drop it into the chat one more time. Okay. Again, you don't need to reference it because you all should have had an opportunity to look at it last time. However, if you're like, hey, before we move on with those words, I would like a minute or two to re-peruse the article, raise your hand. You know, you can use your reactions at the bottom of your toolbar. If you're like, no, I'm good, just move on with your life, then move on with your life. Yes? Okay. See, Mariana, she gave me the virtual and the physical thumbs up. She's like, yes, please. Oh, Robin, good. Thank you for dropping in the KWL. Fantastic. All right, you are going to get more about the do step right now. So I got you. Okay. Let's go back here. I'm going to minimize that. Sorry about that. All right, and as a refresher, the words that we're going to work with are the same ones we used last time. And these are words that I specifically chose because the main idea of the article, right, is fomenting academic language in early childhood classrooms, okay? And so it specifically listed that academic language contained complex syntax, right? Figurative language such as metaphors, right? It contains, even in fiction itself, information density, that it required scaffolding for students to successfully understand it, and that was necessary because of the complex narrative structure. So you see what I kind of did there is I was able to summarize pretty much the entirety of the article by using those words. That's what you're shooting for. I realize that isn't always possible, especially if you are doing fiction, right? But you want to do your very best to choose words that are going to allow you to get to the lesson objective or the deeper meaning that you're trying to get the children and the students to understand. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to show you something. You're going to be like, oh, that's super cool. And then I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't already know how. Okay, let me get the chat. Now, oh, no, it didn't go. There we go. Go ahead and click on that link, and it should ask you to make a copy of a Google slide presentation, okay? And my phone just thought I was talking to it because I said Google. So what you should see is a screen should pop up like this. It says make a copy. Come on. Oh, it's doing it, okay. It's just taking its sweet time. All right, and what I've done for you, and you can save this because this is your own personal copy, is I have created, and again, I didn't invent the FRAIR model. I just took ones offline that I liked, okay? And basically, each of these already has an embedded text box. So you can now use this virtually with your students. And I will show you at the end how to force them to make their own copy. Or if you want for them to collaborate on it, then you can share it with a specific group, right? And you can give it to those students and send it directly to their school Gmail account, okay? So you can peruse it, right? There's a variety of them. And then I also give you some exemplars in different subjects. So you have some, computer generated ones, handwritten, and ones with visuals as well, okay? So we're going to utilize this today. I just wanted you to have it first. Okay, and so again, I wouldn't have students make a FRAIR model of every single word, right? That is lengthy and time consuming. However, if you introduce the word, say at the beginning of your, or the words rather, at the beginning of your mini lesson, okay? So you let them know, here's our objective, here's what we're gonna study, here's the key vocabulary that you need. You provide those visuals, right? You allow them either orally or through a quick write to define those words, okay? And again, if you only choose 3, that's very doable. At first, it'll be time consuming, but as children get used to that process, it can be done a lot quicker. Then, for time's sake, right, you could then teach the lesson, reinforce the vocabulary throughout the mini lesson, and then once students go to independent work, if you're doing centers or stations in elementary classrooms, and I've even seen some middle school teachers do those, right? Then students can provide or generate their own picture or visual, right? And then this can be one of their centers or stations. They can generate their own sentence. They can make synonyms or antonyms, right? If you want them to practice dictionary skills, or if you want them to even use, you know, in the internet, they can write the formal definition, and they've given a definition in their own words before, right? So if you've had them do it orally, you can now have them do it in writing, or you can have these Frere models available for them. And when you're doing that process at the beginning of your mini lesson, they could fill in this portion, okay? So already we're touching upon a way for them to use the words, but also some of the pacing and sequencing for how they're gonna use those words, okay? All right, let's admit Wallace. Wallace is here. Wallace, well, oh, he's not connected yet. He's connecting. Welcome, Wallace, how you doing? So Wallace, I have to say, like everybody was all like, oh, Gabriel, your session was so great. We love you, we're gonna sign up for all your sessions. And then I had 6 people show up today. So it was like all my girlfriends in college. Oh, what a great date, it was so fun. And then I never heard from them again. Right, but that was before smartphones, so you couldn't get ghosted. You just got rejected straight up. Like it was a lot more straightforward, right? We didn't have a special technical term for it. Okay, now let me just touch upon, oh, and Wallace, I'm going to, you're gonna wanna go to the chat because I shared, I'm gonna repost it for you. Go ahead and open up that Google slide because it is a, it gives you several options for Frere models that I want to look at real quick, okay? Come on. Okay, now, I would use this for, you guys can see the Google slides, right? The one that I opened, yes? Okay, I would use this first one for words that I'm going to define in a fiction text, right? Or maybe with poetry. Right? Can you use this for nonfictions? Sure. But the thing is, I don't think it's as appropriate because you're not usually talking about synonyms and antonyms, right? What I would do, for example, if I'm looking at polygons, right? Or I'm classifying figures, I would do examples and non-examples, right? Or even if I'm doing something in lower elementary, we're talking about quadrilaterals, right? So examples are rectangles, squares, right? Any other irregular quadrilaterals, rhombuses, and then non-examples are every other shape, okay? And then, for example, if I'm doing something in science, right? Let's say I'm doing a specific, I'm talking about taxonomy, right? And so I'm talking about a class of the animal kingdom. I might list the characteristics, right? For that specific phyla, that specific genome, right? Genus, sorry. I don't think genome is a word. I was trying to sound smarter than I am and I completely failed. Oh, well, it happens. So again, your mileage may vary on when you would use these specific ones. And then when I tried to find some other examples, unfortunately, almost all of the ones that I found were either math or science related. But like, for example, abdicate, right, is something that it is, you're gonna usually encounter that in nonfiction text, right? But it is more of a social studies term, right? So it still can be used in a Frere model, all right? So again, these are not exhaustive and these are not exclusive. You can tailor the Frere model to however you want your children to interact with the word, okay? The important thing is to give them a variety of things to do with the vocabulary, okay? To expand upon it, to discover related words, okay? And then I'm also doing a follow-up session on Frere models and a follow-up session on sentence stems. So again, I'm not trying to like pimp my own sessions here, right? But I do want to let you know that obviously we can't cover everything for time, but there is a lot of options, okay? So now, let me go back to here. All right, so what we're gonna do now is, and I'm not going to put it in presentation mode because I'm about to exit anyway. So you're now I'm going to ask you guys because there's only 6 of y'all, right? So I can send you to a breakout room to do this work so that you don't have me listening in. Or if you're like, no, we would like your feedback and we don't feel weird about you creeping on us, we can just do it in the big group. Okay, that's entirely up to you. But if you're like, no, dude, we don't want you watching us, that's uncomfortable, and you wouldn't like it either. So don't do that to us. I can send you to a breakout room. So you can take a vote in a minute. But for now, what I want you to do is use one word from the article, right? You're in a new group now, so you're gonna have to select a new word, okay? I want you to complete a Frere model, use whichever exemplar you think is appropriate, and then I will I'll just send you to the breakout room because then it's easier for you to share your screen. But go ahead and share it with me, and then I'm gonna pop it into this so we can all look at it together, okay? And then choose a spokesperson that's going to share out why you guys did that, what you thought about it, how that process felt. Okay? Any questions? No? Yes? All right, fantastic. Should we discuss? Jeanette, yes, cognates are fantastic. Listen to me. How many of you are bilingual teachers? Okay. Here's the thing. I don't know why sometimes cognates get a bad rap. You are aware every single hard word on the SAT is derived almost exclusively from Latin, right? Some have Greek morphemes. That's actually a correct word. I'm doing a session on that too, right? Right being the root word. But the vast majority of hard words, academic language in English, is from Latin. What is the parent language of Spanish? It's Latin, right? Almost every hard English word has an accompanying Spanish cognate. So if the children know hard academic Spanish, they know hard academic English. Cognates are your friend. Please use them. And I'm ashamed that I didn't think of that, Jeanette. So I will be stealing that idea and passing it off as my own wisdom. Thank you for that. Okay, I'm sending you to your breakout room. You have 5 minutes. Just do one Frere model. If you miraculously have time for another word, you can start on another if you're high achievers, okay? Pam, can you hear me? Hey, Pam, I don't know if you can hear me. I was just wondering, I don't remember seeing your name. Were you at the first part of the set or the first session on Tuesday?
I think I missed that. I just signed up for this session and I was rushing and just got home
Oh,
and just got the reminder. So I'm kind of like just coming in and just observing because
okay, that is
sorry.
not a problem at all. I just want you to know that I always send a follow-up email to all my sessions. So tomorrow you will get the recording from last time, this recording, and all of the resources and a PDF version of the presentation. So you'll be totally good to go, okay?
Okay, good. Thank you so much because I just got home and have a man-sized headache from
No,
just I think just the seasonal I think it's just allergy from where I am at.
I feel your pain.
I'm sorry.
No, by all means, I understand. Tis the season to be miserable with allergies. I get it. Well, we're
Yeah.
glad you're here, Pam. If you have any questions or anything, please just put those in the chat and let us know, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, everybody. So, did anybody Amy says not a fan of the non-example category. Do you know who else is not a fan of it? Kids. They are not fans at all. And so the reason that I've found that category to be extremely valuable is it's hard to fill in, right? Because a lot of times I've seen most of my kids will just put random nonsense there. Or they'll put, I've had one time a kid put the opposite of this word as a non-example. That was a GT kid. And I was like, that's great. That's super. Super great. Thank you for that. Oh, I'm going to look up your FRAIR model so I can see it. All right, hold on. Sorry, it just came to my email. You guys can still hear me, yeah? Sorry, I closed my email because otherwise it will, if I'm sharing my screen, it will pop up and it will interrupt the meeting. So now I don't have it open. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to share my screen. This is loading and we'll all be able to look at it and it will be beautiful. Okay, so somebody unmute yourself and tell me how'd it go, how'd you feel about it, which word, why you did what you did, and what word is it? Because the word's not in here. I'm not mad at you, I'm just saying.
We use figurative language.
Okay.
And the reason we chose that is because on Tuesday, Dana had drawn this picture. So we already had a picture done.
Nice, okay.
Yeah.
Look at Mariana's on, she's on it, she's making it. Okay, it says, oh, cat out of the bag. I like it. Okay, very nice. Excellent. Okay, so with an idiom, right? Now, I'm asking, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything like that. Do you feel like this would be, because I realize synonym, antonym, right, is weird with, well, you could do, but like I said, the word is figurative language, right? Do you feel like a non-example is appropriate, or do you feel like synonyms and antonyms would be more appropriate? I'm not questioning your choice. I'm asking you to evaluate and what do you think? Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in.
I think we could do either one because a non-example in this case would be something that whatever you say is exactly what it is.
Okay, so how would we define that?
How would we define, or how would we give an example?
Or what would be a non, like if you were going to say a non-example of figurative language is
straight
I
shoes.
fell down and hurt my knee.
Okay, right. And so we could tell children, right, the opposite of figurative language is literal language, right?
Yeah.
It literally right, yeah, okay. Right. Or you could even, the cat was playing inside the bag and then he left the bag, right? That's literal. That's what happened. It's not an idiom. He was in there because cats like to get in bags. They do. God only knows why, but they like it. Okay. Okay, so now let me ask you this. I gave you some examples of ways that you could pace or structure a FRAIR model in your own classroom or in a virtual setting, right? So talk to me about this in the chat or unmute yourself. Do you feel like your kids or your teachers could have success virtually doing this? And how have you used it in the past that you've found to be effective, so that we can hear from your perspective?
I've used the FRAIR model in my word wall. So the students usually select a word that they've come across in their independent reading, and they add it to the word wall. So I've had something similar like that. Virtually, I'm honestly really struggling, considering that they don't turn in half the assignments or they're not finishing. So honestly, virtually, I'm really struggling.
Now virtual, is your setting synchronous or asynchronous? Are you doing it with them or do they do it on their own? And what grade level are you?
Fourth grade, but we're set up as asynchronous. But I try to encourage them to come synchronously, but even then, I'm really struggling.
Do you feel, and again, I'm not trying to say that this is going to cure all your ills, because it's not, right? But when you have a group of kiddos, do you feel like if you talked about if you introduced you gave them some vocabulary, and then you did this process with them, do you feel like that would be helpful? Do you feel like it would enhance maybe the experience and maybe give them a little bit of a deeper understanding of whatever terms you were talking about that day?
I think so. I think so, yes.
Okay. Now, the other thing, and I don't know, have any of you heard of Classcraft? Classcraft, anyone? Anybody? Okay, so it's like Class Dojo, but entirely different. The reason it's like Class Dojo is because it is a corporate, that's not a word, a corporate digital tool, but basically it's an online, not discipline management, but basically an online motivational tool. And it's like it's an RPG. It's a role-playing game where the children make their own avatar and they have their own team. They can be a mage or a healer, or I don't remember the other categories. But anyway, you give them goals and you assign them points. And basically it is a classroom video game. And so again, if kids don't want to show up, Classcraft is not going to motivate them, right? But the kids that are there, if you say, hey, you complete this goal, I'm going to assign you these points, they get to upgrade their avatar, they get to get new powers, they get to get a pet. So it's classcraft.com. It is completely free. If you want more functionality and better stuff, you have to pay for it. But the free version, because my kid, we have to homeschool him for health reasons, but so that he would have a class, we let him make multiple characters, and his brother, who does go to school, made multiple characters. And it's been very motivating for him because we were worried about him. Yeah, Classcraft, Amy, just like that. Okay, so any other thoughts on pacing this? Because we got 25 minutes. We're still doing okay on time, but I don't want to move on unless you guys feel like we've covered everything.
I used this in science years ago when we started with this. All we had was example, non-example. Synonym, antonym, which was really hard and for science.
Yeah.
And so I ended up crossing things out and trying to, I wanted the kids to give me examples of, so if I was saying mechanical energy, give me examples of mechanical energy. But what I often found was that the kids just kind of rushed through it. They never poured, they just wanted to, they wouldn't even do a whole sentence, or they would forget the period. And so now just looking at this, thinking back through, I wonder if, ones that are done well, done with a lot of effort, could be posted, like Jeanette was saying, as her word wall, like, hey, these are going to go on the wall, so do your best, because the best ones are going to go up, that motivation tool for those kids that are in class. And even the kids that are online, you can say, hey, if yours is really great, I'm going to print it out and I'm going to put it on the class wall, and I'm going to take a picture and show it to you, or whatever, it'll be in the newsletter or something like that. But
excellent. Thank you, Amy. The other thing that I have found is when children are rushing, and again, I understand that you don't want to draw this out, right? But usually people do better if they know better, right? So if you go one section at a time and you say, all right, you're going to have 2 minutes to create your picture or symbol. And then I need you to share out why you created it, how you created it, which part did you like best, attach a sentence stem, and make it more interactive, because that builds in accountability. And if I know I have to show mine to somebody and they're going to say which part did they like, and I drew an absolute garbage and made no effort, then I'm going to look bad, right? And so that may not allow you to get through all of it quickly. You might have to do it piecemeal. But if you do it in short increments and build in accountability, either with talking or, like you said, rewarding, oh man, look at this symbol. This is really amazing. I love that. We're going to use that next time, or when I'm going to use that from now on, and we're going to post that. That's going to be on our Padlet. That's going to be in our Google Classroom, slide presentation that we're going to revisit every time we do Frere models. You build in some of that accountability. Okay. So say again.
One of the things that we work on this is that a lot of it is vocabulary within their reading, and assigning kids in groups. And you are the expert on, like today, my kids don't know what the word field was. And we were talking about, and so they were allowed to get on their iPad. They were allowed to get images up. They were allowed to find the definition and all that. But they were the ones that are the expert on that word. And then and other kids had another word, another group had another word, and then they would teach it to the other kids. And then we would post it on the wall. And
I love that. Yes. If you, and a lot of times that does help if you give them that responsibility and give them that charge, and give them that expectation. And again, not everyone's going to rise to it immediately, but if you make that a regular part of your classroom culture, eventually you get near universal buy-in. There's always the ones that hem and haw and don't want to be a part and like, I'm too cool for that. But no. So thank you, Dana. Okay. Anyone else before we move on? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Sorry. Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and put it in presentation mode. Last time we were together, we did some discussion with sentence frames, and we're going to do some right now too to practice that, because I feel like if we do it as participants and we feel what that's like, it's a lot easier to turn it around. And I know that most of you are probably already doing this and have experience doing so. But just something as you think about sentence frames. Now, just so you know, technically I'm using the wrong word here. A sentence stem only has the beginning part, right? You respond. A sentence frame has multiple blanks, or 2 or more blanks. So it might say, one thing I learned about pedagogical academic language structures is blah, blah, blah. Another thing I learned is blah, blah, blah. That's a frame as opposed to a stem where you just have to fill in one blank, okay? So it doesn't really matter. Okay, again, you wanna design these so that they have no choice but to discuss the lesson objective or objectives and or the essential question, right? What is it I want them to know at the end of this lesson? How do I want them to show that, right? So the sentence frames, the response stems should feed directly into that, okay? Can they be intermediate, right? Can they be the scaffolded pieces that build up to that final understanding? Absolutely. But you need to ask yourself, and again, the reality is if you don't think about these ahead of time, I don't care how good you are, I'm really good at coming up with sentence stems. Not trying to sound arrogant, I am, because I've practiced a lot, right? But if I do it on the spot, they're a lot more garbage than if I give them a lot of intentional thought. And that's just reality, right? So when you're thinking about the language you're going to choose to focus on, right? The 3 to 7 words you want to focus on, you should immediately start thinking about how can I get the kids to use this language intentionally in writing and in speech, okay? It should include other critical vocabulary, okay? I wish I could remember the book, and this is why you should list your references, but it talked about mortar words, right? The words you're focusing are the bricks, but then you need mortar to cement those bricks together. So what is other critical vocabulary that allows kids to successfully use the vocabulary you have chosen, right, in speech and in writing, okay? And then you want to make sure that the language you have designed in the STEM is going to allow them to produce the language you actually want them to produce, right? So if I were you, I would, again, you don't have time to do this all the time, but I would read the sentence stem and you respond to it. And if you're having a hard time responding with the language you want, I promise your students will too. And then, I don't know if you've noticed that I have color coding on almost all of my text. That's because I want to emphasize specific words, or I want to make it easier to follow along, right? So if you'll notice, in the ones you're going to use momentarily, I have highlighted the words that are important or the words that I really want you to focus on, okay? So if you're doing this digitally, that's a lot easier. If you're doing it on a whiteboard, just use different colors. If you don't have different colors, circle, underline. I realize that may seem like, duh, that's not hard. I could have thought of that. But you've no idea of the power that that affects on your brain because you are activating the visual cortex in a different way. And so students unconsciously are drawn to those words. I promise I'm not making that up. That's scientific research. Okay, I'm gonna put you back in your rooms. I'm gonna post these sentence stems, and I want each of you to have an opportunity to respond to that stem, okay? Now, I don't know why yeah, that's weird. I don't know why this isn't posted, but I'm also gonna tell you the bread and butter, because right, you want students to respond, and then it's nice if another student doesn't just than say the same exact stem if they actually have a conversation, right? And so I'm going to tell you the bread and butter response stems that I used for over 10 years were these. I used others, but most of the time I just used I agree because, I disagree because, I partially agree because. And especially if you have lower tier students, right? So let's say you have your groups, your partners assigned, you have a tier 1 with a tier 2, right? Or a tier 2 with a tier 3. You really shouldn't put a tier 1 with a tier 3 because they're just going to frustrate each other and then they're both going to be mad, right? But let's say you got your tier 2 and your tier 3. Your tier 2 responds to the stem and then your tier 3 is like, I don't know what to say because I just don't. Like, I'm having a hard time. If you give them I agree because, they can just repeat back most of what they just heard. And then the first kid's not going to be like, oh, you just repeated me, right? They're going to be like, oh, I'm so smart. This person said what I just said. That's how smart I am. Look at me. I'm awesome. And the other kid is like, oh, I actually said something and I used some words that they wanted me to use. Thank God. That wasn't so bad, right? Okay, so I'm going to put you back in your breakout rooms. I'm going to post these 2 stems and I want you to respond to, there's only a few of you. So you should each have a turn. And then, even though I don't know why the slide is not in here, I apologize. I could have swore it was when I checked over. I want you, one person to respond with, I agree because, I disagree because, or I partially agree. And guys, it's okay to disagree. It is. We still live in a pluralistic society where having another opinion is okay. All right, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms, 5 minutes. Anyone have any questions? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Okay. Bye, guys. See you in a minute. Pam, no problem. You're good?
I'm so sorry. I'm just needing to
It's
take some
totally
break.
cool.
I'm sorry.
You will still
Yes.
get credit for the time you were here, so don't worry. You take care of you. I hope you feel better, and you have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
afternoon, and just look for that follow-up email,
I
okay?
really look forward to this, to participating in this again soon.
It's okay. I understand. Nobody, I promise. No castigation or blame. Everything is cool.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Have a great afternoon, okay?
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye. All right. I think we're waiting for. Did we lose Wallace? Okay, well, maybe he was like, Gabriel is annoying. I'm leaving. We also are missing Mariana, aren't we? Does she have to leave?
No, there was still some time left, so I think they might have just been waiting until the time ran out.
Okay, gotcha. All right, we're all back now. Okay, so P.S. I did a terrible job of pacing because we only have 10 minutes left. We still have like several more slides. So we're going to have to speed things up here. I apologize. I got a little carried away. So we're not going to play a game because that's going to take too long. But I don't want to gloss over this because I started off saying that this is important and you shouldn't gloss over it, right? So I do want you to know if you're doing this virtually, it's still possible. And here is a bit.ly. If you don't already know how to use the Zoom drawing tool, there's a bit.ly so that you can get really easy, straightforward instructions from Zoom on how to do so. So for example, if you wanted to do Pictionary in a Zoom room, the children or students, right, have already created their own visuals at this point, correct? Right? So it's very easy for them to play Pictionary because they can refer to the drawing or visual that they made earlier, right? And so then you are reinforcing what you've already done. You're bringing back in the Frere model. You're bringing back in what they did at the beginning of the lesson. And so with the Zoom tool, you should be able for them to share their screen, pop the Zoom tool, you privately message them the word that you want to do, right? And then they can easily do that. Similarly, this isn't the best, but we can play charades here, right? And if you're doing it with littles, even if the charades are nonsensical and nobody guesses, right? what child doesn't want to watch themselves on the screen doing this, and at least they've done some kinesthetic motions? And if you're like, well, then if nobody can guess, isn't that a gigantic waste of time? No, not if you give them 20 seconds to do it, right? And if you choose words that are easy enough, and if you model some of those, especially if you pair it, right? So figurative language is language that means something else, right? Is that really a great symbol? No. But if every time you do it, you say figurative language, language that means something else, then the kids can just repeat those same symbols, right? Pedagogic strategies are things that you do to teach, right? Is that things that I do to teach? No. But if I always do that, and if you're like, well, how am I going to remember that, Gabriel? Because it's nonsensical. Record yourself doing it on your phone, make a folder that says kinesthetic things, and then you'll watch yourself saying pedagogic strategies, things that I teach, and then you'll remember. Okay. So we're going to move on. I'm just telling you, you can do these things, even if you look like I look right now, because they let me do this at Region 11, right? Okay. So before we go, I feel like this is two really important things. How do you modify this for the littles, right? If you're, are any of you doing early childhood, pre-KK, 1, 2, anybody here? Yes? Okay, right? So if they're still learning how to read and write, and you're like, well, dude, how they can't fill out a Frere model, right? How can we adapt it for them? And then, like I said, how are some ways that we might break up the structure of this on a given week? So let's jump into the first one. What are some ideas that you have for how can we modify this for littles? Because these strategies are still useful for them. We just have to modify it for those that are still emerging readers and writers.
Some of the things you could come up with as a class, and the kids can just copy what you come up with as a class on their own paper.
Okay, Robin, is that you?
That's me, sorry.
Okay. No, not mad. I just want to, yes, I completely agree. Could you do something like this whole group? Absolutely, right? In person, that's a little easier, right? You can still do it online, but it's a little less engaging. But yes, absolutely. Okay. What else? Any other ideas? Because I mean, I could just tell you what I think, but that's boring. You've heard me talk a lot today.
It could be all pictorial.
It could be all pictorial, absolutely, right? And is there anything wrong with, it's again, if you do a simple word with a 3 or 4, like, okay, I want you to write this, and if you say it, we're going to define it as figurative, right? It means something else. That's 4 words, right? And they can still, okay, what do you hear at the beginning? What do you hear at the end of that word? Which letter, right? And even if they use inventive spelling, if you guide that process, they can still do it at the level that they're able to, right? Does that work? Okay, and again, too, because a lot of people are like, well, why am I writing the sentence stem if this kid can't read it? Because oral language ability is an enormous predictor of reading and writing ability. So if you repeat the stem enough, you're gonna, you model, you're gonna bring up a kid, or you say, okay, Jeanette, you and me are gonna practice this together right now. Okay, and then the other boys and girls are going to practice it. So here's the sentence stem. I say it. All right, you say it. Everybody, let's say the sentence stem, right? And again, if they don't say it perfectly, that's okay, right? Get them as far as you can get them and praise whatever effort they make. You get more of what you ask for and what you praise. Okay, now, 6 steps, right? Can you do all 6 steps in a lesson realistically with, say, 1, 2, 3 words? What do you think? Yes, maybe, definitely not. People are like, she's like, a lo mejor, I don't know though. Wallace is like, no, fool, I'm not even gonna lift my thumb. That was the dumbest thing you've said all day. For it to be the dumbest, that would be something, because I've said a whole bunch of dumb stuff. So again, you have to know your kids, you have to know your environment, right? You might say, okay, Monday, we're gonna work on this unit all week, or this, this main idea. So I'm gonna introduce the key words for the week, right? And we're just gonna do the visual where I introduce it, and then we're gonna do the, they make a definition, right? Then Tuesday, we're going to revisit. They're going to create a visual. Wednesday, we might do a couple Frere models, right? And then at the end of the week, we're going to play a game. But one thing that I would do continually is discussion, right? There's no reason that you can't have an oral discussion with a sentence stem for those words. And if you can have them write it first and then say it, or say it and then write it, right? You can think of it one of two ways. If they're relatively proficient writers, they get to rehearse, then they get to say. If they're really having a hard time writing, they get to say it. That's oral rehearsal. And then if they're like, but miss, I don't know what to write. What did you say? I said this. Write that. Oh, I can write what I said? Yes, Juanito, of course you can. No seas torpe, mijo. Desperta. No, don't say that to the children. That's not nice. Don't say that, okay? Don't do that. That's mean. That was a non-example. Put that on your Frere model, okay? All right. We only have like 2 minutes, so I apologize. We're going to be a tiny bit late. Final thoughts on this, because I know this is a big, right? Like, how am I going to pace it? But I can't tell you exactly how. You need to think through what's going to benefit my kids the most, how much time do I have, and what is it I'm trying to accomplish with these words. If it's small words within a small, like, I just need these words for right now, for this lesson, for this article, this book, I wouldn't go through all 6 steps, right? I'd pick and choose which I think are going to be most important. If there are words that they need for the whole unit, then you should pace it out and do all of them, because then you're hitting lots of modalities, right? Thoughts, questions? Okay, then we're going to move on. It's not too late, though. If you want in the chat, you want to unmute yourself, feel free. Okay, so I need you real quick to answer these questions on this Zoom poll. I have to turn in an evaluation for myself of, did you learn anything from me, right? This is the Region 11 keeping me accountable to ensure that you actually got something out of this training, okay? So it's 3 multiple choice. Answer them real quick for me. Sooner you do it, sooner we're done. All right, I got 1 out of 6. Well, it's really 1 out of 5 because I'm the 6th one. Oh no, it's 6. 2 out of 6, nice. Wallace is looking for the question that says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how amazing is Gabriel Verone? Just kidding. that is not an option. All right, I'm just waiting on one last person. You're doing good, 53 seconds. That's pretty fast. Excellent, thank you so much. I'm gonna end polling, and it looks like we got mostly level 2 and 3 responses. So either you guys are really smart or I'm really good. Do you wanna see the results? You wanna see it? No, okay. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna send you tomorrow, if you haven't already seen, these are my sessions that are on the books right now. And then these are 7 extra sessions that I just added. 4 of them are currently live. 3 have not been through the approval process, but I wanted to give you guys first dibs, okay? Since you stuck with me 2 days in 1 week, and that's mean. Like, my wife doesn't even want to do that. She's like, I'm gonna go to work so I don't have to see you. All right, and again, you don't have to remember any of this. I'm gonna share it with you in the follow-up email tomorrow, okay? And then the last thing, all of these links I'm also gonna share with you, right? You can, if you tweet, you can follow me. There's my email. We have an ESL Bilingual Facebook and a YouTube page, and I just started a bilingual professional learning newsletter through S'more. I will share all of that with you in the email tomorrow, okay? In order to get credit for this, to get your continuing professional education, what'll happen is I turn your attendance in tomorrow, it goes in the system, and sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours, it'll probably be Monday, probably Tuesday, more likely, you will get an email from Region 11 and you have to do another evaluation. I apologize. I have 2 different evaluative instruments. That's not me, that's TEA, okay? Don't be mad at me. Once you fill that out, you go to your Region 11 profile and your certificate is there, okay? And I'll send you those instructions, the PDF, the recordings, all the resources, everything. So if you're like, oh no, I don't know what the link is for the Frere models, I lost it, it'll be in that email tomorrow, okay? So questions, comments, and all right, we're only 2 minutes over. So if you're like, thank God I'm out of here, good night, have a wonderful afternoon. If you do need more, you want some more information or anything, stick around. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
I want your opinion